When you're training to become a Knight of Bretonnia, you must practice the joust. Tilting at the ring ensures that once the chips are down and your life is on the line, your lance can find a monster's gullet and fell the beast before it snacks on your flesh. Sometimes, these tournament sessions are disturbed, and the revelry must be put on hold. When an Ogre war tribe comes knocking, Alberic and his Hippogryphs answer the call, and together, alongside the companions of Quenelles, they'll look to slay these foul creatures and put on a show for the spectators watching safely from the surrounding castles. There's nothing simple about this matchup, though. Rhinox Crushers, Ironguts, and Stonehorns can be a brutal combination against even elite knights, so we'll see if Bretonnia can keep their honor and vanquish the incursion, or end up as sausage in a Slaughtermaster's stew. Playing as Paravon today, Hippogryph Knights are the linchpin of this build. You may have already seen me play the same matchup against Dom Plays, and in that battle, Knights of the Realm just could not cut it. They couldn't get through all that Ogre armor. So now, we're trying Hippos, who for some reason still don't have Living Saints, but I'm going to try my best to get CA to change that. Blessing of the Lady, huge weapon skill, and Alberic's Alberic de Bordeleaux for bonus versus large makes them an interesting potential counter to Ogres. Now you can probably make this work with Lewin as well, but Alberic's a bit more cost effective and has innate bonus versus large with his Trident of Manon, so with Heroic Killing Blow, Spirit of the Tempest, and the Braid, anything fighting near him will hit harder against Ogres, and that's what we want. The infantry will be led by the Beast Slayers of Bastogne, 4 Peasant Archers, few with fire arrows for countering Trollguts, and a bunch of spears and halberds, and we're going super wide here, except for the elite Knights of Bretonnia, obviously. And not expecting much from the peasants in this battle, but they can run interference for the heavy hitters, like my companions of Quenelles. These guys are born and bred to bring down armored ogres. Only 10 bonus versus large, but ridiculous AP and melee stats. As long as they're not taking clean charges from Stonehorns or Crushers, or being exploded by artillery, they are a huge threat to the big boys. Across the battlefield, march the Sharktooth tribe, and they're rocking the same core of units you should expect to always see against Bretonnia, with a bit of a twist. The Hunter on Stonehorn seems auto-include here. It's just a perfect unit, able to smash infantry or knights, can't really be shot effectively. Lots of Noblars in the front ranks, and 2 Rhinox Crushers with great weapons in the rear, which will brutalize cav or monsters in the right situation. Be supported by Ironguts and a Slaughtermaster of the Great Maw, Bone Crusher and Trollguts for healing, with some artillery as well, and another unit of Crushers. Now personally, I think the Iron Blaster is the way to go here, because it's devastating against knights and single entities, and it forces players into making tough decisions about what to fight and where. But the double scrap launcher play is a fantastic option for quickly clearing out archers and halberds, which are kind of bad alone, but can do a lot when they link up with knights in a grindy type of fight, and that's what this battle might devolve into. So, blowing up all of these peasants from range, allowing you to focus on the hippos with your Rhinox and Stonehorns, really not a bad idea, and it's not like they have a dearth of targets to shoot at here. In fact, the Beast Slayers of Bastogne would be a perfect unit to try to take off the field early, because they actually will mess up armored ogres in melee. Solid builds on both sides. You might notice there's a conspicuous lack of ogre bulls in this build. Remember that they currently have a pretty hideous visual bug going on right now, so no one's using them anyway. But here against Bretonnia, I don't think they'd be the play. They just do poorly against even basic spears or halberds and all of these cheap peasant archers, even with Iron Fist. So rocking with that armored core, the units that truly counter the Bretonnian elite, seems like the way to go. Which means Crushers, Ironguts, Stonehorns, and occasionally a Iron Blaster is probably the right play if you want to take on the armored elite of Bretonnia. Now, the cool thing about Hippogryph Knights, as these peasants are absolutely exploded by all these scrap launchers, is that they have the benefit that most monstrous cavalry do not. One, they get to pick and choose their engagement every single time because they're flyers. More importantly, they can deny that massive 80 charge bonus of the Rhinox cavalry, which is huge in a fight like this one. Deny their charge, tie them down, let the companions come in from the flank, and even Rhinox Crushers are not going to perform well in that type of scenario. But of course, very heavily dependent on micro positioning and when and where each player decides to engage. Which is why this is already shaping up to be one of the most interesting and one of my favorite matchups in Immortal Empires. Both sides have a lot of counters to each other, and visually they're both stunning. I'm ultimately kind of not sure how it will develop in the meta, but so far I've had a blast with it, and this was a great replay, so strap in. The gross, smelly, tiny, diseased creatures have charged into melee, and oh yeah, the Noblars are there too. Hippogryphs lining up for their initial charge, trying to clear some chaff as the peasant lines advance, and Alberic straight into the thick of it now, which will likely force a response from the Ironguts and the Rhinox Crushers, perhaps even the Hunter on his Stonehorn. In fact, he already landed a dirty javelin into the face of Tompete, the Hippogryph, for Alberic de Bordeleaux. Meanwhile, Hippogryph Knights are ripping through these Nobblers, but they'll probably have to retreat as the Crushers and Stonehorn get close, and this was crazy. So, in 2 charges, this Stonehorn is going to rack up 75 kills. I don't know how it happened. Obviously, Stonehorns are known for their terrifying charges. Nice Bone Crusher from the Slaughtermaster as well. But yeah, I mean, instant terror rout and like half HP down for these peasants immediately when that Stonehorn makes contact. So, I guess if you're a Bretonnian peasant, stay the F out of this creature's way. It's gonna get nasty for you if you find yourself on the receiving end of their horns. But if we're being frank here, this is the life they totally did not sign up for, and it won't be much better for them on the other side, where Ironguts and Crushers are smashing home with Wrecking Ball momentum. Thank the Great Maw for the return of sync animations too. CTE does not exist. Concussions are not brain injuries. I'm sure he's fine. He's just taking a nap. Ironguts laying out with their massive clubs and scimitars, and as expected, 50% plus casualties in these first waves. It's kind of a brutal affair so far. Ogres haven't taken any important damage to speak of, which will inform my strategy here. Now, there was a Nobbler Trapper ambush in the rear. There are 2 units Vanguard deployed behind my lines, and that will actually take up a lot of time of my companions of Quenelles, and those Nobbler traps are really annoying. They'll slow down the speed of my Grail Knights, or rather Questing Knights, tremendously, and will make it difficult for them to join the fight where they're actually needed. So they'll actually be forced to just clear out all the chaff in the rear, and that Vanguard ambush isn't going to do a lot of damage, but it is going to distract one of my most important elite units. And when I'm talking about my strategy here, I'm going to realize pretty early on that maybe only 4 or 5 of my troop choices actually matter. That's where I'm going to invest 90% of my attention in terms of micro. With all the trees and all the heavy armor, the basic spears and archers simply are not going to do very much, so why spend much time microing them? It's all about the Hippogryphs, the companions of Quenelles, the Beast Slayers of Bastogne, and Alberic de Bordeleaux. Everything else is just kind of tangential. It just doesn't really matter where it is, where it goes. Obviously, you'd like to have clean micro on everything, but microing a full army of Bretonnian peasants, while you also have to make sure your Hippogryphs are in the right position, can be quite challenging. So, we know where we're going to put the majority of our efforts, and here comes Alberic with the Hippogryph Knight Goon Squad going after the Crushers, and that was a real nice dismember, slowing down my Hippogryph Knights, lowering their acceleration, speed, and charge bonus, and they will just barely escape. If they had been pinned down there with the Stonehorn and the Crushers on top, that could have been pretty disastrous. It might have been just GG, honestly. If they die there or take tons of damage to the point where they're losing models, and regrowth can't bring them back, I'm not sure Bretonnia has the tools to deal with 2 Rhinox Crushers and a Stonehorn without those Hippo Knights. So thankfully, they are able to extricate themselves from a very precarious situation, and now that they're back in the air, peasants are going to be the next to get run over. Companions of Quenelles are waiting on the wings, and this is a perfect time to re-engage. So Hippogryph Knights can blunt the charge of those Rhinox Crushers as Bone Crusher lands in the background. Companions of Quenelles coming in, and now that the Rhinox Crushers are distracted, a flank charge from those extremely powerful tin can openers, the Zweihander wielding Knights of Bretonnia. They can start chopping in from the side, and this is how many woolly creatures from the Pleistocene went extinct. Hippogryph Knights with a full surround off. Crushers are able to escape, but they've taken a lot of damage. Trollguts will try to counteract some of that. Upgraded regrowth also helping out the Hippogryph Knights, ensuring that they are topped off, and they did not lose any models in that engagement at all. They are literally 100% HP, so couldn't ask for a better start in terms of the Cav engagement. Meanwhile, the peasants are still being taken to Pound Town by the Ironguts. It's a hard knock life for us. Hard knock life for us. It's so... I feel so bad for them, but I make jokes at their expense. But like, truly, how horrific would it be to be a peasant in this scenario? Look at how big those Crushers are. Look at how big the Ironguts and their weapons are. What are you supposed to do in that scenario but just freaking die? It's messed up, man. And the Knights don't care at all. They're just killing Rhinox on the other side of the battlefield. It's not about helping out the peasants. It's about individual glory and honor. The Knights are certainly racking up plenty taking down a full unit of Rhinox Cavalry. Over here, 3 Peasant Bowmen routed off in the exact same direction. So you can see that this flanking attempt by the Nobblers has actually done a lot to clear out the back line for Bretonnia. Casualty of the fact that I'm just not paying too much attention to them at all. And frankly, getting 3 Peasant Bowman units shut down by a single unit of Nobblers, not ideal. But they were forced out of the box by this fantastic Nobbler Scrap Launcher play, so that's really why they routed initially anyway. And they've gotten some great damage into the Beast Slayers of Bastogne, elite halberds with 22 bonus first large, who have taken the brunt of their missile fire since these lines clashed in earnest. Hippogryph Knights taking another gorgeous fight here, straight into the Rhinox Crushers, dealing with 2 full units now. The Companions of Quenelles are not far behind, and here come the Beast Slayers of Bastogne. So a Butcher to heal up the Ironguts. This is a really important fight for the Ogres. If they're able to push through the Hippogryph Knights with the help of that Bone Crusher, Slaughter Masters have already gotten 2 or 3 really good ones, then they might be okay. But these Rhinox Cav are definitely getting destroyed by Heroic Killing Blow and the Braid of Bordeleaux from Alberic and his Trident of Manon. Companions were actually still distracted. They're coming over the horizon now, slowed by another Nobbler trap, and the heals have been on point for Bretonnia. Hippogryph Knights have still not lost a single model, and another Overcast regrowth, which will get them very close to the healing cap. Probably 1 more Earthblood will be enough to hit that cap at this point. But they seriously face-tanked an entire section of the Ogre army. They brought a bunch of the Rhinox Crushers low, and now the Companions have come in, and this is the perfect fight for them. Again, as long as they're not being shot by Lead Belchers or Iron Blasters, or charged face first by Woolly Rhinos, then this is the perfect fight for them. This is what they are born and bred to do. They can clean up all of this remaining monstrous cavalry and then push into the rear and maybe finish off those Nobbler Scrap Launchers who are already looking pretty low on ammunition. The Stonehorns still full HP, and the Ogres still have access to all kinds of healing. They probably have enough for at least 1 more Troll Guts. They might have enough for 1 more Butcher as well. Great thing about the Ogres' army abilities, very easy for them to rack them up against all these peasants. So they'll get a ton of heals this game, a lot of slows for the Bretonnian Knights as well, but the monstrous cavalry has been demolished by the elite of Bretonnia, another Earthblood, and they are pushing forward with all the momentum they can spare. Another mailed fist from the Great Maw, about to crush some stuff, but not particularly effective against Hippogryph Knights. I believe low model count like that just doesn't care about spells in that capacity. If that was a fully blobbed up group of Companions of Quenelles, would likely mess them up pretty bad. And we have seen tons of men-at-arms, halberds and spears, exploded by that spell. But the Elite Knights are holding firm. Though the Ironguts have put in all kinds of work, they're engaging the Beast Slayers of Bastogne, Companions, and all these units have bonus versus large, plus 8 extra on top of what they have innately because of that Braid of Bordeleaux. So Alberic will take this moment to disengage. Hippogryphs have finally been brought low. I believe they have begun losing models as well, but there's not really any monstrous cavalry left to speak of on the Ogre side, and the Stonehorn looks like it's about to rout. In fact, yes, it just did. Alberic is not going to show him any mercy, at least not yet. Scrap Launchers forced to commit to melee, certainly not bad in that capacity against regular spears, although halberds with their AP would be a bit more problematic for them. They're a big chassis, a big hitbox, to get enough AP going their way, it's gonna hurt. And at this point, I was seeing that Stonehorn run towards the edge of the map, and I'm gonna chase it a little bit, but I realize the game's pretty much firmly in hand. I want to get a little bit more value, so we're gonna let that Stonehorn return. We're gonna give him a little bit of space, show him a little bit of mercy, but the reality is, it's not mercy so much as we want the honor of killing it and not watching it run from the battlefield. So, Scrap Launcher will fall to the Trident of Manon. Alberic has been a freak all game long. I'm not sure his damage value is crazy high, but just passively, innately, giving the Hippogryph Knights their bonus versus large has been game-changing for sure. And yeah, the Stonehorn will return and in fact, get a dirty Javelin volley and take down one of my Hippogryph Knights, and that will piss off his brothers. They're coming back, and they're gonna put this monster down for good. Which is pretty fitting when you think of the haughtiness and cockiness of a Knight of Bretonnia. There's no honor in killing a running, wounded animal. Let it rally, let it come back, and then you kind of get yourself punished for it. You lose one of your brothers because of your own cockiness. So They will get the full surround off on the Stonehorn, and we're going to see something that we almost never see in Warhammer 3. We are going to see a Stonehorn actually die. I don't know if I have a replay on my channel where a Stonehorn dies. They usually just run when they get really low, and they're just so hard to kill. Another beautiful Bone Crusher. That Slaughtermaster's got to be up well over 100 kills. But the beasts of the Sharktooth tribe that disturbed our wonderful day of revelry and jousting will finally be vanquished. Final Earthblood for Alberic. Hippogryph Knights are already heal capped up. Hunter and Stonehorn shall fall. And that is pretty much going to be the end of the game. But you know what? Let's accrue a little bit more value first. Charge the Noblars. Leave the Slaughtermaster alone. Get a little bit more honor, a little bit more vengeance. Love it, man. The Knights of Bretonia really surprised me this game. I knew that this kind of build had the potential to work against Ogres, and we'll talk about what the Ogres might need to do to counteract a build like this one in a second here. But yeah, they were incredibly impressive in terms of combat performance and their damage value overall. So Alberic was at about 1900, but again, that innate Braid of Bordeleaux increased the capacity of all my other units for killing armored ogres so tremendously. He was pretty close to MVP this game, but no, I mean, the Royal Hippogryph Knights, 3,500 damage value is absolutely insane, and not far behind on the companions of Quenelles either, who dealt with the Noblar Trapper ambush in the rear, killed hundreds of them first, and then came in and killed off the remnants of 2 Rhinox Crushers and some Noblar scrap launchers. So those 3 units really put the team on their back. Beast Slayers of Bastion were about 950 damage value too, so not terrible on them. Now, from the Ogre perspective, I do think that an Iron Blaster is going to be core in this matchup. I think having pretty much the exact same build, skipping the scrap launchers, because the Peasant Bowmen, while a solid unit in so many matchups, have a really hard time denting 130 armor and missile resist for like the Stonehorn. So while I think they're worth bringing to help supplement your knightly charges as Bretonia, I don't think you need to worry overly much about them, especially when you have Noblar Trappers to put pressure on the back line like Duck did in this game. So I don't think you need to get 2 scrap launchers, even though they're not crazy expensive, and they did great. I mean, they cleared out tons of infantry. They did well. I do think that having the Iron Blaster to kill Knights or the Hippogryphs would have been a better choice and would have put me in a very precarious position where I have to choose, do I charge the Crushers? Do I charge the Iron Blaster? If I charge the cannon in the rear, am I going to get flank or rear charged by Crushers with great weapons? Like, that puts a lot of pressure on the Bretonian player and simply makes decision-making difficult, which is a really important part of strategy in Total War. Have to make a tough choice. I might lose a unit if I make the wrong one. So, really well played. I think the builds were good for both players, but we'll see how this matchup develops. See you guys in the next one.